winner goes nothing.
All right, yep. This is the beginning. How you doing, everybody? This is my second podcast. It's me, Moox Millie, and I am here today with Ryan Hosey.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy?
Is this the beginning or is this the end? We just don't know it. Ooh.
It could be.
It could be.
We could be getting ready to be killed right now.
Hey, you never know.
Potentially malicious intent.
Preciously malicious intent.
So
we are here. I'm happy to be here, Max.
Very happy to have you too, man. Very happy to.
This is great.
This is a very different podcast than the last one. So last time we talked about a lot of art and cultural stuff and aliens and things that weren't so serious.
Aliens?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Today, was it funny?
It was I believe.
You believe in aliens?
I believe.
It's a good way to start. We'll start lighthearted. So you do believe in
I
aliens?
believe, yeah. I mean, how can we be the only, life forms? We have to. Right. There has to be more.
Now, this is the question that I actually have been posing since I like to add my own twist to things.
Mm-hmm.
What about interdimensional aliens?
What are they?
Like okay, so they exist as the form of like a radio wave.
Whoa.
Per se, like a sentient radio wave that just can't be detected.
I'm right now. I'm thinking of like the Beastie Boys song "Intergalactic." Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Beastie Boys are an underrated group.
I mean, but going back to your question, I mean, I think that if there are aliens out there, I think I would hope they look like the creatures from like the first World of Worlds movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would hope they come down in like cool spaceships like that. Actually, no, I would hope they come down in like flying saucers on strings like an Ed Wood movie, like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
I hope they're like sentient diamonds. I hope they look like a diamond that thinks.
A diamond that thinks. Or, you know what? What if they were, a blob, the blob, I would like if they were all blobs. That'd be cool,
like
too.
Like the eggs from the Jimmy Neutron movie.
Yeah.
Like the yolk people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the original Blob with Steve McQueen?
I think I was actually talking about this with Austin yesterday because we talked about 80s movies.
Well, there was the remake in the 80s, but then the original, it was a super corny 50s science
the 80s
fiction.
The remake is pretty fucking corny.
The 80s remake is pretty gross. I saw that when I was like really young and it freaked me the fuck out.
Someone was telling me about so they saw a video about how the Blob accidentally cataloged American fears over like 20-year periods because it went from like McCarthyism and the communist scare to like, and then all of a sudden in the 80s it was what was it portraying? I forget. That movie is very poorly executed.
I like the special effects, are good. I'm kind of different when it comes to movies. I mean, I like the big kind of action monster movies like for the entertainment, but it's not like movies that I would go and see in the theaters. I couldn't tell you the last time I've been to the movie theater, man. I think that's a complete ripoff.
I think it's a big ripoff, but the CEO of Netflix expressed his interest in having a $15 a month plan where you could go see as many movies as you want, and you just pay $15 a month, and just, you get like a monthly ticket. They scan you in, and you just go however fucking many times. I think that's the future right there. You have to make it an event. Going to the movies, it used to be an event. You used to dress up and go to the movies. You know what I mean?
And it's super. It's expensive to go to the movies, and I would argue they should have bars at the movie theater.
It is a self-defeating kind of. I got close to the mic. It is a self-defeating kind of thing. They upcharge for candy to the point where now nobody fucking wants to go to the movies.
I've if you're not bringing stuff into the movie theater, I don't know, but we got really way off politics. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Politics.
But But you want to know something? That's okay.
Well, we start with the Blob. So let's talk about American fear, since we're talking about the Blob. We're talking about horror. We'll start with that. We'll pose this as the first question. What do you think Americans should be the most afraid of politically right now?
Politically? The two-party system. You got to think outside the box. Now is the time to think outside the box. We already have Trump. The time of,
For those that don't know, I am registered independent. I vote with that in mind, so I don't vote in primaries. I'm not allowed to in the state that I'm in.
Which is a fucking joke. I think you should be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
No.
I think my opinion should be valid whenever the fuck I feel like voting. In fact, I would vote in both primaries if possible. I would vote for Democrats and Republicans, and then let the two people I picked fight each other.
Ranked choice voting.
Yeah. What do you identify as politically before we jump into the whole thing?
Well, I was brought up Democrat.
Right.
More of probably just a traditional, like, third way kind of Democrat. Like, my mom and dad weren't really political people. They voted Democrat their whole lives. But, I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 because she wasn't Donald Trump. And I thought Donald Trump was kind of someone, I really didn't like him. And I was kind of afraid of, what it would be like if he was president and stuff like that. But now I've, kind of seen past the Democratic Party, and now I'm a registered Green. I'm registered with the Green Party of New Jersey. And I really think thank you, my friend. I really think the Green Party is the party of the people. I like Bernie Sanders a lot, but and I think if the Democratic Party let him be the nominee of the he would beat Trump. There's no question he would floor.
Believe Bernie would beat
I
Trump,
believe
so
Bernie. I think Bernie Sanders. I think he's the best. He's the best nominee of the Democratic Party, other than Mike Gravel. Mike Gravel, he's just running to shift the debate narrative. He's running to kind of, pressure everybody. Shouldn't say pressure. He's going to move everybody to the left because, Mike Gravel's really fucking cool too. He leaked the Pentagon. He spoke the Pentagon Papers into the public record, which pretty much told us that the Gulf of Tonkin was a lie.
So let's talk about the Pentagon Papers then, since we're on this topic.
Shit, I wish I read the Pentagon Papers. I'm there's a lot that I need to read, but
everybody's behind on their reading.
Mike Gravel. He has been a solidly anti-war, pro. He's a progressive. He is a really progressive guy. I would say he's like a New Deal Democrat. I would even say he's to the left of Bernie, especially on foreign policy.
Now, when you say to the left of Bernie, I'm just going to express, the interest of more further right-wing listeners. He's hitting a cartridge right now. So to the more right-wing end of the listeners, why shouldn't they be afraid of right-wing candidates? Because there's a stigma in politics, especially in the two-party system in the United States, where half the country will never touch the name Republican, and half the other country will never touch the name Democrat.
Well, you shouldn't vote for the Republican Party.
Okay.
You just shouldn't vote. You just shouldn't. The Republican. You just shouldn't. The Republican Party is.
I'm not a Republican.
Let me tell you, the current. This is not the party of Lincoln. No, we're the party of Lincoln. It's complete and total bullshit. This party is such a far. They're not even the party of fucking Reagan.
Well, they are kind of the party of Reagan.
But if Reagan were alive today, if he were a candidate, I think he would be a moderate within his own party.
He would be a moderate within his own party. You're right.
I think this part is so far
Reagan was right-leaning. Even Nixon was right-leaning.
Terrible fucking
in
man.
Some categories.
Horrible
Yeah, no, he
Richard
was a monster.
Nixon. Terrible. But again, before they created the EPA.
EPA.
And he, and OSHA and
he also didn't think black people should eat at the same dinner table. And that's how politicians
That's
work.
how politicians.
You can be very right about one issue and then be abhorrently disgusting on another.
He was also a huge homophobe.
And he recorded every shitty thing he ever said because he was paranoid.
I
say as I talk into a microphone.
I think Richard Nixon was an interesting man. I really do. I
think he's a fucking a political epiphany. Roger Stone has a Richard Nixon tattoo on his back.
Roger Stone is an interesting man.
Roger Stone. Have you ever seen the documentary about him?
No.
Get Me Roger Stone on Netflix.
Can I hit this twice?
Yeah, help yourself.
Thank you.
He calls it. He acts like he's a snuff piece, but I feel like what he's doing is he's manipulating culture. So it's like kayfabe. So like when Kanye shows up at the TMZ studio and says something abhorrent so that he gets views. You're using a platform against itself. You know what I mean? And Trump does that very well. That's a lot of his political theorizing.
Donald Trump is interesting. I mean, he's just a very. I go back and forth with Donald Trump. I don't know if Donald Trump, I can say if by having watched him as president over these past few years, I don't know if he likes being president or not. I think I have to agree with Howard Stern, which is
He doesn't want to be president.
I think he liked. I agree. Howard Stern said, and I think this is true. I think Donald Trump liked winning the presidency. I think he liked beating Hillary Clinton. He still has a real hard on for Hillary Clinton. I mean, he really just completely.
But he didn't. But you notice how the thing was lock her up, and
he's still chanting that. By the way, they're still doing that.
He's done nothing. Nothing in his political interests has actively worked. Even if he really did want her in like for Benghazi, for example, if he really did want her and her party held responsible, why isn't he pressing it?
Because it's red meat.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
red meat.
It's just.
He's Donald Trump, and here's the thing that people have to understand about Donald Trump is that this man was a Democrat.
This man's a salesman.
He's a fucking snake oil salesman. This guy is a hack. And the thing is, he's from New York. He's a New York City con man. He doesn't give a fuck about people in Mississippi or Kentucky or West Virginia or all these people, these poor unfortunate people.
Well, he'll
like
tell you he does.
Well, because he's a fucking liar, and that's why he's a great manipulator of the media, and he's really good at setting the narrative. Because I'll tell you what, the fucking cable news and the media in this country plays right into his hands. They play right into his fucking hands all the time. They never take the fucking. I mean, the whole Russian collusion thing. I mean, that Russiagate, complete and total. I mean, I think that was an excuse to divert attention from the fact that Hillary Clinton got her ass kicked by a political nobody and Donald Trump. I really do. I think that...
I kind of disagree. And
I think that whole thing, and look at what the media did. Look at how they pushed that Rachel Maddow foaming at the mouth night after night after night about Russia, and nothing. Mm-hmm. And nothing. And Trump, and then Mueller, and I've heard Mueller for 2 years. Mueller, I've heard he's like a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
He's the Boy Scout,
that's the current.
And then he came out and they said, "Here's his report," and the report came out, and it's not enough. It's not enough. Now he's gonna get subpoenaed by Jerry Nadler, who I said is the biggest piece of shit in Congress, and I still think Jerry Nadler is a big piece of shit because he's grandstanding. This whole thing about Trump, just nail Trump on obstruction of. If you want to beat Donald Trump, you have to beat Donald Trump with substantial policy, and we want to get back to. Who do I think is the best Democrat? And I think the best Democrat, if you're going to vote for a Democrat, it should be Bernie Sanders.
Did I ask that question yet? Because that was the next question I was going to ask.
We were talking about Bernie, and I think Bernie's the best. But that just goes into the impeaching Donald Trump, which is what.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about.
All of this is kind of because all of this is the Democratic strategy
is trash.
Going into 2020, there's a sect of the Democratic Party that's thinks
never used social media before. There's a sect of the Democratic Party right now that is very easily manipulated by media and is very incapable of manipulating it. Trump and his campaign managers, not even the Republican Party, because a lot of the Republican Party is also very bad at social media, but Trump is not, and Roger Stone is also not. And you can see it when they do things, when they tweet things that are deliberately incentive. And when he calls the media fake news and they report on that as fact, it's calling to question their authority. And the way that media works now is they'll say anything to get clicks. So it doesn't matter if it's true, it doesn't matter how abhorrent it is, they're just going to push it because that's what sells.
Well, the media is all bought. The media is all bought. That you can't get all the mainstream media is bought. That's why I like independent media. That's why I think that one can watch the mainstream media, but you have to take what they say with a tremendous grain of salt because it's going to be completely reported with a corporate bias, pushing the military-industrial complex. And look at how many times the media pushed. I mean, look at what they did during Iraq.
Yeah.
Look at how they pushed the Iraq, and then look at what they're doing now with Iran, beating the drum for war with Iran. I mean, very little pushback in the mainstream press about what's happening. So I think that when the media, pushes a corporate narrative and deliberately misleads people, I think that gives, when Donald Trump says fake news, like, I think half of that, fake news is like he just wants to throw that to red meat. But, some of the media, I think, does deliberately mislead for the establishment.
Yeah,
for the establishment.
I don't even think it's for establishment.
I think it's very
much...
They're
their own establishment. Like,
they're in bed with the people who they're supposed to keep accountable, Max.
Yeah, it's an income thing.
In
a capitalist-driven society,
right.
Everything is driven by income, not morality. So, the most successful newspaper, take the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc.
Owned by Jeff Bezos.
These things wouldn't be able to exist if they weren't funded by third-party people at this point. The Washington Post was bankrupt, and I don't know. Would it be better to have? There's a good question. Would it have been better to let the Washington Post sink rather than Jeff Bezos buy it?
I think yes.
Yes,
fuck
you
that.
deserve to sink.
Jeff Bezos. The fact that we have Bezos he now owns a paper that we're supposed to fucking.
He owns a bank.
And now he owns a major newspaper, and we're supposed to believe that what they're going to report isn't, skewed. I mean, come on. It's fucking like. Look at the corporate ownership of the media. Look at who owns CNN, who owns AT&T.
Now Fox, though. Let's talk about Fox on the opposite end of the spectrum. Now, do you think that both of these mediums are just playing themselves against each other for the purpose of, like I said, attention? It's all about ad-driven revenue at this point, so it's clicks.
Fox? I think Fox is just, I think Fox has always been the right-wing, talking point machine.
It's just a business machine. That's all it is. It's a business-driven...
Well, I think it's definitely a political machine. I think it's that Fox News, I mean...
Well, politics is a business in
itself.
It's a begging business, even.
They're making this is why... They're making a show about Roger Ailes on Showtime, I think. And it's called The Loudest Voice. And Roger Ailes was I don't know
a lot about Roger Ailes.
Roger Ailes was a guy who created Fox News.
Okay.
And with Rupert Murdoch.
I know Murdoch. Okay.
Yeah, Roger Ailes was he had worked in the Republican Party before. He was a big Republican, operative, and Rupert Murdoch gave him this, task of creating the Fox News channel. And he turned it into, he really changed media.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after 9/11, news definitely changed.
It's the worst stage in American news history happened if iterative journalism can be dated back to the headlines of newspapers like extra, read all about it, Nixon slandered in Watergate, whatever the reading is. If iterative journalism comes from that, it came back to life after 9/11, and it took on a new Frankenstein form.
I agree. I think after 9/11, everything just became, for lack of a better term, it just became way more chaotic. Everything was just chaos amplified after 9/11. The 24-hour cycles, it was just nonstop. It changed. It definitely changed. There was something, And then going into the war on terror and the war in Iraq and the media misinformation campaign about the war in Iraq. I mean, we come back to that and I can understand why people don't trust the news media in this country. I mean, I can, because it's so bought. It's so fake.
Right.
It's so incredibly, and when I say the news media, I'm talking about the mainstream media. I'm talking about.
Let's talk about media and its role in fighting dictatorships, okay?
Oh.
Because I'm a big fan of, for example, the anti-Nazi newspapers that floated around in Germany. And I think that's some of the highest points of writing in general, when it's used as a tool to propagate change for the better. Now, that in itself is assuming art as propaganda. So, what I'm talking about in this context, do you think the media in its own way is doing its job in its trying to fight Trump, and they're just not stern enough in their position? Like, would you support a more, for example, European news is more opinionated, more opinion driven by pieces. Like, if it was just two people talking about politics most of the time, would you like that, or do you like, because Fox and Friends does do that, and it's something that the Democrats don't do. Democrats don't have a Ben Shapiro.
Have you ever seen Morning Joe?
No.
Oh, you should watch Morning Joe on MSNBC. I mean, I don't want to. You should watch it once and then turn it off and never watch it again, because it's fucking terrible. You know who Joe Scarborough is, right?
Okay, yeah.
Joe Scarborough, yeah. Well, Joe Scarborough was a Republican. He was a Republican congressman from Florida back in the 90s. He was, part of the Gingrich Revolution. He was elected to Congress during the Gingrich Revolution.
Newt Gingrich is a weird-looking guy.
Newt Gingrich is a piece of shit.
He looks like a pimple.
He is a fucking pimple, I think. But Joe Scarborough...
I'm not a big fan of Newt Gingrich.
Well, I'm not a big fan of fucking Newt Gingrich either. But I'm not a big fan of Scarborough because he's a Republican. And you know what? He's one of the Republicans who hate Donald Trump just because of Donald Trump's rage tweets. And because he pisses off the pundit class. So, that's one of the things about Donald Trump that I find effective, is that I don't want to say because he's not a very likable person, but I think the way that he, plays, the media.
See, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say he is likable, and he's likable because of this. Okay? A lot of people were invested in him because they thought he was their ticket to burning this system down. Take WikiLeaks.
But who was the candidate on the left? Who was the establishment? It wasn't Hillary Clinton. It was Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
It was Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton.
Well, Hillary inspired no change.
Hillary Clinton stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hillary definitely, I think, had it been Bernie and Trump in 2016, I honestly think Bernie would have beat Trump. I think Bernie can beat. We're going back to Bernie again, but I think Democrats, that's their, solid chance. That's their absolute, if they had any brains at all. And I also think the Andrew Yang guy.
I like Andrew Yang a lot personally.
I think the universal basic income thing is an interesting proposal. I mean, I've heard criticism of the universal basic income. I've heard people say that it's some neoliberal kind of scheme or something. I don't know.
Neoliberal scheme to do what?
I don't know. Like a neoliberal scheme that kind of glosses over Medicare for all and kind of, it's...
And because if I'm wrong, Andrew Yang's version of the Green New Deal, or not the Green New Deal, the Universal Basic Income. Sorry, it doesn't include healthcare for all. You would pay for it out of pocket still. Yes. Does he support Medicare for all? I can look it up right now.
Yeah. Look,
Andrew Yang.
I think it's an idea that's worth debating.
Universal basic income or Medicare for all?
Yeah, universal basic income. I think Medicare for all is. I mean, Medicare for all to me is it's either Medicare for all or bust.
I don't think it should be questioned. Yeah, Martin Luther King. He said that one of the quotes I like to use from him was that the greatest injustice in this country that he didn't understand was how sick people are treated the way that they are. The healthcare system being like one of the greatest injustices in this country, and that's Martin Luther King's. Like, a lot of people don't realize that things that they say today would have definitely been against what like people like Martin Luther King fought for. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't realize that they may or may not be supporting the right side of history. And I'm not trying to say that all conservatives are supporting the wrong side of history. I'm not saying all Republicans support the wrong side of history. I'm saying there's flaws.
Well, I think if you're...
So he's raised almost $2 million already, Andrew Yang. That's pretty
No, I think...
He's going to be on the Colbert Show soon.
Yeah. I mean, why not someone like him for the fucking Democrat?
Why not Yang? He's the first Asian candidate that I can think of. Bernie was the first Jewish candidate ever.
You know, I mean, I hope it's not Joe Biden. I thought very much so that Biden was going to come into this and just take over.
Yeah,
but I mean, he makes so many gaffes. He's a gaffe machine candidate. He really is.
I don't like Biden, personally. I don't think he inspires change. I think it's the same problem with Hillary.
No, Joe Biden. You want to talk about the wrong side of history? That guy's on the wrong side of history.
He's famously not made very great decisions on things like abortion is something he's going under the radar for right now. And that's a very serious issue for a lot of people in a lot of the world. And
yeah, the Hyde Amendment. I mean, how the it's just
how
baffling
again,
to me.
To me, that's
I don't know.
Not even democratic ideal. But we were talking about this earlier too.
Yeah.
How one candidate like Nixon can be supportive of something like healthcare and then completely a fucking monster in his own right. You know what I mean? Just supporting a good policy and just not supporting a bad policy doesn't necessarily make you a good or bad person.
I mean, you want to talk about...
So, Andrew Yang, it's the third thing on his page. He's got universal basic income, his three biggest policies, Medicare for all, and human-centered capitalism.
Which, I don't know what that is.
It would be, I believe, I'm clicking on it now, because it's kind of a weird term thing.
Sounds a little platitude-y.
It's definitely platitude-y. But he says, number one, humans are more important than money. Two, the unit of human capitalism economy is each person, not each dollar, and markets exist to serve common goals. Capitalism as an economic system has led to unparalleled innovation and improvement of human condition. Many consider it to have won the war of ideas against socialism, but the simplistic view ignores that there is no such thing as pure capitalistic system, and our version of institutional capitalism and corporatism is relatively recent in development. Our current emphasis on corporate profits isn't working in vast majority of Americans. This will only be made worse at the development of AI. Okay, so this is probably going to refer to human-centered, like how, so when he described this in, I believe, a lecture that he did that I watched, and I can't think of what YouTube video it was, but he mentioned something like a universal basic income covering somebody like a stay-at-home parent. You know, how it sort of reshapes our whole idea of what we consider work now. You know?
Right.
So, and again, most people would tell you that women that raise children have a real job. Most people would tell you a stay-at-home father has a real job. They're less common, but I think it's a very viable life choice. It shouldn't be degrading on them to not do it, and it does foster a need for the child rearer of the family to depend on the breadwinner. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it is kind of a maybe this is a stretch here, but it is something that has held women back probably. It is assuming women have a child rearing position or a less income earning position, but traditionally that has been the standard, correct?
Right. That's been the standard, I think.
Yeah, most people would agree with that. So we're losing a little steam here. Let's talk about something a little more lighthearted.
I don't.
Let's talk about late night comedy.
Late night comedy. Well, I mean, I think. What? Okay. All right. Are you gonna edit this part out?
No, you're good. Just go.
Okay.
I'm running out of the room real quick.
No. Good thing this isn't live. But late night comedy. No, I think late night comedy it serves a purpose. I'm not a big fan of the format of the shows. I mean, I think it's all very played out. Like the typical the Jimmy Kimmels and the Jimmy Fallons and shit. I mean,
sorry about that, guys. I had to run out of the room, and Ryan didn't understand what I was saying.
No.
Sorry. So sorry to interrupt. So with late night comedy, what I wanted to talk about, and it's something that you actually mentioned to me before, a lot of people feel like they bully Donald Trump. Now, to what extent do you think that's true, and to what extent do you think that is the comedians exerting their own opinions? Which is, they're right. I mean, Trump says everything that comes into his head.
I think Donald Trump is great material for comedians. I think any president's probably great material for comedians. I think he's
easy material, and I think that's why people, like you, for example, express your disinheritance of it.
I think it's played out because I think it gets annoying after a while. I get annoyed by it after a while. I'm just that kind of person. It was funny the first time I saw the Alec Baldwin thing on SNL. I thought it was great. I thought that was awesome, but after a while I was like, okay, it's,
Yeah.
I'm just an asshole, but I think that the whole I think Trevor Noah, he does a lot of stuff about Trump, and I think a lot of it's okay. And I think a lot of it's that's nice. I think a lot of it's, okay. And Stephen Colbert, I mean, Colbert's monologue pretty much every day is something new about Trump, or what did Trump do today and everything. And
well, unlike most presidents, he says something every fucking day.
Yeah, he does. And like I said, it makes for great television. It really does.
I think it makes for lacking television.
I think I can understand why that would piss off people who like Donald Trump. I don't think it definitely...
Do you think it hurts the Democratic base because it ostracizes, like, a group of people? Like, do you think that I'm ostracizing people when I talk about, right now, just having you on here being a right-leaning person? Am I ostracizing people that might listen to me that might be left-wing or right-wing?
No. I don't think you're ostracizing. I think, it's good to have dialogue.
I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really the big thing I want to have about this show is I don't want anyone to, even though I have my own political opinions, I do always want to be open to very, very different kinds of people. And I have a lot of different friends with a lot of different political opinions. And I have a lot of respect for all of their opinions.
I have Republican...
I don't respect people that belittle the rights of others. That's
No, and Nazis, no way.
Well, we can get to that question. This is one of the questions I have. Punch a Nazi, yay or nay?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If
violence
you see
justified?
yeah, absolutely. If you see a Nazi, punch a Nazi in the face. I think there's no justifying with a Nazi. And Antifa is not as bad as... there's people who say that Antifa is like, oh, well, they're just as bad. No, they're not.
I mean...
Don't fucking listen.
I mean, it's definitely unrealistic. I don't see how... I mean, both sides have one radical that does fucking something that ruins it for everybody. Whoever throws the brick on both sides is the asshole. That's the fact. And both sides tend to forget the other side's right. And the left is definitely dominating the culture war. And always has. You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of the repercussions we're seeing now. It's like rock and roll, a lot of it was left-leaning. Rap music, a lot of it was left-leaning. Media, television.
Is generally liberal.
Because, now do you think that has to... Why do you think that is? Do you think media goes for liberal artists, or do you think that people prefer liberal artists?
Oh shit, that's a really good question. I don't know if I. If you can't tell, I'm very medicated for this interview. This is a good. We're covering a lot of ground.
Oh yeah, I think again. I wanted to cover as much ground as possible on a lot of different topics, and I want to again remain open to anybody that wants to come on here and discuss anything from real heavy duty politics to simple artistic stuff like we did last week.
What were we talking about? What was your question? I'm sorry.
We were at. We lit the joint and now we forget where we were at.
Do you want to talk about? Microval?
Microval? Go ahead.
We should talk about. We should talk about how fucking great Microval is, because that guy. Donate to his campaign if you haven't already. Look up who he is. He's running for president. He was a senator from Alaska.
This is an unpaid ad.
This is an unpaid ad, but I'm saying you should talk.
I know. I'm just saying for people listening, this is an unpaid advertisement. He's just a big supporter.
Oh.
And I think that's fine. I think this is a great way to discuss things that a lot of people support. Again, I am a supporter of a lot of environmental issues.
And you should
supporter of civil rights aggressively.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I always intend to be looked at as an ally to whatever community I can.
Absolutely. And that's why I think that grassroots activism is amazing.
For those that don't know, what is grassroots activism?
Grassroots activism is, well, human rights activists. Grassroots human rights activists. There's grassroots groups, and grassroots generally means that you are, uncorrupted.
Right, uncorrupted.
Uncorrupted. Okay. You don't take corporate money. You're free from corporate influence. Grassroots and direct by the people for the people. That's what grassroots is.
When we talk about grassroots, do you truly think that grassroots can exist in a country when political parties are fueled by capitalistic greed? And that's not an anti-capitalistic statement. That's just a statement of fact. Is there a way to really get corporate interests out of politics?
I don't think you can get
like even money. Me right now. Like, do I have my own corporate interests with Platinum Star Entertainment? You know what I mean?
Getting the money out of politics. You got to get the money out of politics. You just have to. You have to get rid of the money and the power of money in the news media. I think that we should just get rid of the whole Citizens United.
Okay,
the
so
whole
Citizens United now.
Well, that's that pretty much says that corporations and they can give as much money as they want to in these PACs. Do you see how much money they give?
That's what it was. Okay, I'd forgotten the name of that policy.
They buy the politicians. They bought the politicians
since like 2008.
They've completely and totally I think it was 2008 or was it 2010?
It was Hillary ran the first time, so I think it was against Barack Obama 2008.
Yeah.
So because I remember Bill Maher actually.
Bill Maher.
He donated $1 million. Well, speaking of late night comedy, he donated $1 million to Hillary Clinton's campaign as like a showcase of his support and saying like, look at what the fuck you could just do now. Because before that, the cap was $10,000. A lot of the argument for raising the cap was, economic growth, which is this, the same thing argued for raising minimum wage too.
I just don't like the fact that
do you think
corporations bought. Okay. I think direct democracy is cool. Look at what they do.
I aggressively believe in direct democracy.
Look at what they do in Europe.
Yeah.
Look at what they do in these France, European countries. And is it Sweden or Switzerland? It might be Switzerland.
It depends what you're asking. I can look it up.
The people make the laws.
Okay, so we're looking up countries where people make laws, where the people directly vote on laws, right?
Yes. Whatever that big smart person term is.
Vote on policy. I don't know if there's a big smart person term for that. There might be. Referendums by country. Direct democracy.
Direct democracy.
Yeah, so
direct democracy. Ocracy. I mean, I think that the people should have.
Okay, so Sweden is an example of a direct democracy, and I'm going to click on their example of how theirs works. Because even direct democracy could be modernized. Like, how would you say about, like, if we voted on a phone? You know, I file my taxes on I can file my taxes on my phone. Why can't I vote on my phone?
See, I like a paper ballot with I like to do
I'm
I like
not
to do
saying
all that stuff on paper.
ballots. I'm saying open it up.
I don't know. I think that makes it really easier to hack things.
But you can do that with taxes too, and it's fine. Yeah. You know, like.
Well, there's all this talk about the meddling in elections, and I think that kind of.
And what about the hanging Chad thing? That the last time the hanging Chad thing with
what's that?
It's why Al Gore lost in Florida. Basically, so the ballots when they were punched, they wouldn't go all the way through on the Democratic candidate. So they called it a hanging Chad because it was dangling on the piece of paper. And what they actually tally in Florida is the pieces of like hole punched paper. Mm-hmm. So every vote out of the certain kind of machine that went to Al Gore didn't work.
Really?
Yeah. If you look up the hanging Chad scandal, and it's funny
hanging Chad
because that was Jeb Bush's state too.
Jeb Bush is a laughable man.
I thought his campaign was funny. Remember when he like looked at the crowd and he was like, "Please clap."
But
I almost cried for that man. That poor old man. So,
I don't know who's getting laughed at harder right now on the stage of the Democratic debate as we speak. Is it still going on, I wonder?
It's
got to be. It's got to still be going on.
Actually not
I'm going to watch the highlight reel.
Yeah, amen. I'm only watching the highlight reel. I don't need to.
I'm going to watch the whole one tomorrow, I think, because that will be with Bernie and Biden and... Here we go, folks.
Okay, so
it starts now.
Back to direct democracy. Direct democracy is defined when policy questions go directly to the voters for a decision. These decisions include funding, budgets, candidate removal, candidate approval, policy changes, and constitutional amendments. Not all states allow direct democracy, nor does the United States government officially.
That sucks. That should not be.
Yeah, so there's a map of places that have options for direct democracy, and we are in a place that has neither what? Initiative and popular referendum positions. So we have neither initiative or popular referendum position in New Jersey as of 2010 for direct democracy. I don't see why direct democracy is how you get things legalized that actually work. It's how you get policies like responsible gun ownership is allowed. Yeah. It's how gun ownership stays and pot gets legalized in the same state. You know what I mean? It's how the policies that really affect the people get done. It's how you reduce the cost of hunting licenses and stuff.
It's how you reduce the costs of a bunch of things. How you reduce the costs of a bunch of basic functions. Right. I mean, who doesn't want to reduce price hunting license? Do you hunt?
No, I don't. I'm not a hunter, but
I know a lot of.
It's in this area. We live in an area for people that don't know where we are. We're in the southern part of New Jersey.
I've heard it referred to as the gulags.
It's
the gulags of the gulags of New Jersey. I went to one of Weedman's when I went to Weedman's 420 festival.
We were we were gonna discuss Weedman.
Weedman is very cool.
So New Jersey Weedman, for those of you that don't know, is a local celebrity. How much did he get caught with? Do you know?
I forget off the top of my head about.
He
was
a smuggler from New Jersey.
Yeah, Ed did time.
Yeah.
And then.
Didn't he defend himself in court too?
Yes, multiple times. Ed is very. Ed is a hero. Ed Fortune is a hero. I mean, he's a great advocate. You want to talk about a great grassroots advocate for marijuana. I mean, you will find no
They found him not. They tried to charge him with witness tampering.
I think he's probably one of the most important, if not the most important, advocates for marijuana in the country. I really believe that his story is
very special.
His story is amazing.
A lot of people defend the patients and not the smugglers. You know what I mean?
No, because Ed's right about how the medical program. It's about it's the rich guys control the pot, man. I mean, we don't want that. We want everybody to, you should be allowed to grow your weed. You should be allowed to grow your weed and sell your weed. Support your black market dealer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the fucking rich corporations get to control the prices, and that's why you go into the dispensaries if you have a green card. That's what I call it.
A green card.
Yeah. Medical card. If you got your card, you go in there, it's like $500 an ounce.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
$500 a fucking ounce. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
It is kind of
and it just goes to show you how it's rigged.
You're legal,
Yeah.
What I mean? It's allowed if you can pay for the permit to smoke it, and you can pay for the legal ounce of government weed. You know what I mean? It's only illegal when you...
why the fuck would you have it other than just for the cover?
It is a point that conservatives would bring up about other policies, though, is that government intervention is a big fucking issue. It's something that conservatives would use on their gun control argument, and liberals use on their drugs argument. And I'm on the safe usage of both guns and alcohol and drugs, for that matter. Alcohol is a drug, but I'm for the safe usage of everything. It's not a very popular opinion, and I'm fine with that.
I totally agree. I think that as far as drugs go, everybody should be allowed to decide what they want to do and how they want to experience life.
Well,
and
look at the Controlled Substances Act, for example. Do you think cyanide is on the Controlled Substances Act?
Cyanide? Yes.
Absolutely not.
Really?
No. The only drugs on the Controlled Substances Act are the drugs that people enjoy using. It's nothing that is actually considered, not recreational. It's a list of recreational substances that persecute people. And you know what it fosters? It fosters a mistrust in police. Really. You know why people hate the fucking cops in this country?
Because they suck.
Because of things like stop and fucking frisk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Racist policies like stop and frisk.
Because of and police overstepping boundaries.
I think there's way too much police in this country. Well,
do you know how military surplus works?
I probably couldn't tell you in a way that would make me sound smart. No,
okay.
I could probably bumble my way through that like I've. But I mean, seriously.
Every year we spend probably, I think it's $7 billion annually on military equipment, and a lot of it sits there. And then you can Google this information. I'll pull up an article if you want me to. But so military surplus, it just sits there, and it'll be extra tanks, it'll be infiltration gear, it'll be riot gear, it'll be assault rifles, everything. Which, assault rifle's kind of a dumb term anyway, but
yeah, I mean, killing fucking machine is
what
probably more.
what isn't an assault rifle?
Exactly.
What
a fucking
but
any gun, it's assault.
Again.
Right.
So, what was I talking about? Assault rifles. And,
assault rifles.
No, military surplus. So when
that's good shit, man.
When we have extra military items, we sell them back to the police force. And that's how we generate extra revenue. So if you take New York City, for example, if New York City was its own country, privately owned, just with its police force, it would have a larger military than Greece.
Wow.
And Greece is not a third world country. It's Greece. I mean, they don't have the best economy. They're not very good with money, but they're
Greece is in friggin' ruins right now, isn't it?
If you want to talk about Greece, we can talk about Greece. Greece is an interesting topic for me.
I don't really know too much.
Yeah, that's why I didn't. A lot of people don't.
I don't. All I know is
European politics more than most Americans do.
That's very. What do you think of Brexit?
I think England is in a very, very awkward place. I don't support Brexit. I'm not a Brexiter. I think a lot of England, from what my understanding is, voted for Brexit under the interpretation that they thought it was going to affect their immigration policy, and it might, but it's also going to affect everything else too.
Do you, so are you pro European Union?
Yeah, yeah, I'm,
You think?
I'm for as close knit union as we can. I mean, I'm a person that agrees with unions across the board. So I'm for the United Nations. I'm for.
So why shouldn't Britain leave? Like,
okay, well, Britain operates under a different set of rules than the average European country because they print their own money. They print pounds, and then the pounds can get converted into euros. That's always been a problem for Europe because. Okay, so this doesn't exactly work like this, but this is like a dumbed down version of it. It's like explaining nuclear power, like dropping a nuclear rod into a boiling thing and then conducting electricity through it, spinning a turbine, conducting electricity. So the boiled down version of how the European Union is supposed to work is it would allow free trade and free, no tariffs or limited tariffs between countries.
mm-hmm.
I hate tariffs. I'm a big anti-tariff guy. Now, there's a lot of rules in the European Union, so there might be tariffs. I'm not saying for sure that there's not. But I'm not a big tariff guy. So
Free trader.
Yeah, so within reason,
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call myself a free trader either because I'm a big supporter of government holding business accountable for things like radiation dumping and shit like that. I'm for businesses being accountable. I think you should be allowed to buy a gun, but I think gun companies should be responsible if you decide to snap and shoot somebody for it. And that's exactly how you get change. Because gun companies will do anything to sell a gun. If you make them responsible for every school shooting, though, they'll fix it. They'll make it so that you can only buy, a locking gun, or that it can be hacked remotely, or whatever they're going to do. And then you'll still be able to get guns that can't be produced that way.
Are smart guns a thing?
Not
because I heard Chris Christie make fun of it one time. Because they proposed some bill in the state legislature about smart guns, and he laughed it off like, "Oh, that doesn't exist. I don't know what they're talking about."
Even if it doesn't exist,
why can't we fucking figure it out?
If you hold the company responsible for making it, they will. If you tell General Motors that they need to start putting seatbelts in cars, that's the example I use. I think everybody should be allowed to have a car. I do think it's a responsibility though. And you shouldn't operate one drunk. And if you're a fucking suicidal sociopath or something like that, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to have one either. If you're on the terrorist watch list, it calls into question what you can do with heavy machinery. You know what I mean? And it is an interesting topic.
Well, I think there's many different exceptions that could probably be made. I mean, terrorist watch list, yeah, I think I could probably agree with you. Mm-hmm. All I know is that as far as guns go...
Now, with the terrorist watch list, a lot of the issue a lot of people have, that I've heard from some of my more conservative-leaning friends, is that it's not a public list. Is that you could just be placed on a terrorist watch list just because... And then the government might be able to come and take your guns. I'm not a knock on door and take guns guy.
No, there needs to be background checks.
I am a background check.
But we need expanded. I mean, people say we have expanded. Oh, well, we already do have background checks. It's
New Jersey does. New Jersey has.
Well, we need like a nationwide. We really need to fucking tighten the squeeze on the guns. We do.
I don't think.
And we need to declare mental health a national emergency. What do you think of that?
Yes, I would declare mental health a national emergency.
We need to declare mental health a national emergency.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
I think we need to.
I don't understand. Sorry.
No, I just think we need to divert all of
mental health.
We need to divert many government resources to tackling this.
It's like
we do. I mean, we need to really
epidemics and the way you treat mental health is education, and I
again,
have my own opinions about mental health. I talk about them in my up and coming book, How I Cured My Depression with Magic Mushrooms. But the way that we treat mental health in this country is...
we stigmatize it. Stigmatize the shit out of it.
Half the country has an aggressive stigma toward it, and the other half romanticizes it. Okay? Like, now, some of the people in the world are very depressed. I, myself, have been very depressed. And if you are very depressed, I'm always open to talking to anybody that might want to say something. But I've tried to commit suicide. I've been hospitalized for it. And when these kinds of things happen, depression, a lot of it, and a lot of people don't talk about it, is it's boredom. And it's comfort with boredom. You know, you get okay with laying in bed all day, and you start to stop talking to your friends, and you get comfortable in neural path working, really, is what it's called. You get comfortable in the way that your brain circuits, and you just do the same pattern every single day. And one of the best things for it is to alter your neural path working, whether you do it through meditation, whether you do it through psilocybin, whether you do it... Traveling is another very successful thing that I talk about in the book.
Traveling.
Yeah, traveling and changing your environment in general, it forces changes in neural path working. Change is one of the most stress-inducing things in mammals, actually. Like moving.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Moving.
Exactly.
You're actually moving right now. So
yeah, I am. So the stress, but.
You want to talk about that? You're moving.
Oh, well, it's just a crazy experience, but I can definitely understand stress being most. And I think how do you manage stress? Smoke pot.
I'm okay. So when I talk about stress, I like my stress. You know what I mean?
Well, stress is good for art.
Today.
Stress is really, really good for art.
Relaxation is something we admire in the animals that we eat, you know? But it's also the reason that humans aren't the animals that people eat. You know, we're alert, we're surrounding, we're adaptable creatures. We're predatory, really.
Right.
And at least in a tactical sense, where humans have the ability to think tactically. And when you're able to think tactically about anything, really, your own life, your own existence, you can change it. You can change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy, and it you have to do it every day.
It's just the mindset shift.
Yeah, and it's the biggest thing. And psilocybin for me is how I did it personally. That's why my book is How I Cured My Depression with Magic Mushrooms. And then I go back and I try and explain, because just taking the drug, it's not like, oh shit, it's like a common cold. You know, you take some Tylenol and you don't have the symptoms of the cold anymore. It's not like that at all. It's more like have the chance to go into your psyche and rewire your brain.
Right. And a complete rewiring of your psyche.
What it does is it's rapid neural path working, essentially.
Okay.
So your brain will attach to it, your psilocybin and LSD and DMT and ayahuasca. They create what they do is they shut down what's called the default mode network. And again, I talk about this in my book too. And when the default mode network is shut down, it happens during meditation too, which is why I suggest this for neural path working. You have the chance to make different connections with things in your brain. So you can attach yourself to a symbol or an idea, or you can, like Paul Stamets, he taught himself, he's one of my idols. He wrote a book about mycelium and psilocybin mushrooms and stuff. Mm-hmm. He does a Joe Rogan podcast. It's really interesting. And his YouTube channel is really cool too. Right. But he took a very high dose of psilocybin and he climbed a tree and he watched a lightning storm, which is very, very poor, very unrecommended. High doses of psilocybin can even cause paralysis in some people.
Oh shit.
So being up in a fucking tree during a lightning storm.
Yep. No.
So anyway, the lightning started striking and he saw fractal patterns during it, and you know, he grabbed the tree and he felt like he was connected with Gaia and all this, blah, 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 blah. And that's like the mystical type experience, but during it, and it feels like infinity, you know what I mean? Like when you go back, it feels like this was also like a 5-minute thing that felt like forever at the same time. So at some point during this, he was like, don't stutter. I'm not going to stutter. I'm not going to stutter. I'm not going to stutter. Because before that, he had like a really big speech problem and he couldn't talk normal and it held him back in his life. And in one psilocybin trip, he was able to stop stuttering for the rest of his life. In one psilocybin...
Completely... Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's incredible.
And it works for a lot of people. There's consistent results of stuff like that. Me, personally, I was pretty sure I was going to kill myself. I thought my best chance was I was going to be Edgar Allan Poe one day, and someone was going to kick me over and find my body. And now I don't know how I was looking at life like that. Because I see now that it was like I was drowning in like 2 feet of water, and I just needed to stand up. And I'd lost my mom right before there, and I developed post-traumatic stress disorder from this, and that I still struggle with. It's actually one of my remaining symptoms, but psilocybin definitely made me rekindled my love for life. I don't want to commit suicide anymore.
Dude, that is amazing.
And I quit smoking cigarettes too.
That's fucking awesome.
In one trip.
Wow. See, that's really cool,
and
man.
Quitting smoking cigarettes. See, some people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure the drugs helped your depression," and then I'm like, "And I quit smoking cigarettes," and they're like, "Oh shit, really?" Like, yeah, like the depression was less of a real thing. You know what I mean? It's like.
But then it was like, boom! Hey, guess what? I just knocked out the habit.
Yeah, you can test one thing. Like it's like, oh, one paper, depression. You just circle the happy bubble, but like quitting smoking is a physically testable result, and there's as high as 90% success rates on alcohol tests in the Johns Hopkins research, and that's 100 candidates, all with psilocybin research in 2 to 3 sessions. I think it was 1 to 2 sessions. They were completely cured of alcoholism.
Wow. And
there's evidence that LSD did the same thing because they're mimicking LSD trials, and I talk about a lot of underground like psychotherapy and a lot of research, because right now Harvard is starting to release all of Timothy Leary's old stuff. Really?
Wow.
Yeah, so some of that's coming out, like the alcohol stuff is how we knew about that. Michael Pollan actually had access to a lot of this research. And Johns Hopkins University now is doing some phenomenal work that's really going to push. It's going to change the world. They're the reason Colorado legalized. I'm actually in contact with the Colorado Psilocybin Society. I've talked to a couple people from there. And a few doctors that they put me in touch with, and Alex and Allison Gray, and just phenomenal people in this kind of psilocybin community, I guess.
Right, and it's amazing how like we're seeing this happen in states like Colorado. I mean, just wait, because I'm sure there'll be more states that look at this and just. And it's like how it's the same thing with pot. I mean, look at how many states have legalized pot now.
Yeah,
doesn't seem like New Jersey can get its shit together, but now we're talking about states actually legalizing mushrooms. I think that's great.
I'm not.
I think that's great
for like rave use of mushrooms.
No. I just think I think it's great for people to have an option. If they want
for
to
medical usage and
for medical use, and just like with pot
saved my life. You know what I mean? And
I think pot saved my life. I think pot really kind of helped me because I drank a lot.
Pot's different than psilocybin. You can, like, right now we've consumed cannabis, and we're sitting here, we're having a rational conversation. If one of us took psilocybin, one of us took psilocybin, we'd be on a completely different wavelength. And again, like I said, in my book I talk about like the mystical type experience and how you have to induce it and set and setting and stuff like that. You really don't want to be fully conscious when you're trying to rewire your brain on psilocybin. It's only going to hold you back.
Right.
You want to turn on, tune in, drop out. You want to lay in the dark with the sound. Like, even music. People are like, oh, I want to listen to this music. And it's like, Your ego is going to attach to the sound, though. You want to be like a sensory deprivation tank. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever heard of people that experience hallucinations, like when they're out on the water and shit? Like,
No, I
they
haven't.
fall off a boat and they start hallucinating in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, because there's nothing around them, and again, sensory deprivation just induces weird hallucinations. People will see boats. People will see like sailors that just keep going and all stuff that's not real. And they know it's not real. Like, a lot of time you can tell it's hallucination. And the brain is a fucking weird thing, man.
Is it scary? Is it scary doing mushrooms?
Yeah, absolutely. And is it amazing? Absolutely. Is it okay? Could it be the worst experience of your entire life? Absolutely.
I don't know.
Could it be the greatest experience of your entire life? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Could it be in between? More than likely, yeah. Is
that just the risk you take?
Well, the risks are significantly diminished with set and setting. Like I said, that's why I'm not for rave usage.
Rave usage, right.
Like, there's been 0 bad trips at the Johns Hopkins University because they know what they're doing now. We've made a lot of mistakes with psilocybin and LSD, MK Ultra, Harvard University, Timothy Leary, God knows what. It's the reason we can't even test LSD to this day. You know what I mean? It's the reason it's psilocybin and not acid being tested. Acid is significantly more potent than psilocybin, and I believe will induce the same effects if administered correctly. LSD is a little more party-esque, though, than psilocybin, at least for me, but I haven't done high doses of LSD.
No.
I've done high doses of psilocybin.
It's fucking weird.
You know what's interesting? You can't join the Church of Scientology's highest branches if you've taken acid.
The Church of Scientology. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the Scientologists to rip them a new ass.
Oh, I could talk a lot about the Scientology. I love cults. I do. I'd love to have them on here. Any Scientologist that might be listening,
Let's get it.
I would love to have an open discussion. Please. I won't attack you. I really won't. I'm very fair.
No, I mean,
but, okay. So let's talk about L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard.
So he was a science fiction writer that started a church.
Yes. The end.
As one does, as a science fiction writer, we all know why we did it. And basically, a lot of the promises that they have are like, it cures cancer eventually. You can, it basically eventually promises you that you won't die. And Tom Cruise is very high up in it. A lot of people always talk about Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And L. Ron Hubbard is dead now.
I wonder if the church likes the Tom Cruise attachment. Do you think
they love it? They love it. You have no idea how much they do for this man. Okay, so Tom Cruise is literally privately taken care of by the Church of Scientology. He has a mansion that's protected by Scientologists. They take out his clothes every single day. Top-ranking Scientologists actually work for Tom Cruise directly, and David Miscavige, who is in charge of them. And you can find this out on Leah Remini's documentary.
All right, I remember I'd seen her on the Bill Maher show talking about her. I haven't seen it yet.
I love Scientology stories. I do. I think these people are so inspiring. I think occult beliefs, their beliefs are they're cult beliefs, not occult beliefs. There's a difference. Cult beliefs, they foster weakness, really, and you see it on all levels in the Church of Scientology. And a lot of people make fun of them. Even Mormons make fun of certain Scientologists.
But everybody makes fun of them too. I mean,
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I make fun of. I think they're all fucking fair game.
I agree. I
100%.
First off, if you can't be mocked, I think that there's something wrong with your ego. You know what I mean?
Really?
I don't ever intend to be some figurehead that, and I think it's wrong to want to be a figurehead that's unquestioned. You know what I mean? It's inherently negative. Absolute power is fucked. That's why we have the country that we have. That's very interesting. I didn't even. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. Yeah, I mean, a lot. Have you ever read like essays that compare the United States to Rome?
No.
Well, like, we're the largest empire that's ever existed in the shortest amount of time, besides Rome, besides ancient Rome.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and we kick ass and take names. We innovate. We innovate faster than they did during the Italian Renaissance. Like there's no civilization in history.
But we're also assholes.
Yeah.
We're tremendous pricks.
Well, that's also something about Rome. Like Rome is notably tremendous prick.
Hey, and guess what? Rome fell. And guess what? I think this country.
That's a lot of a lot of what people compare. So
implode.
let's move on to some more political topics. I guess. Well, it was kind of political. Let's talk about.
We cover everything, literally.
Let's
everything.
talk about Venezuela.
Venezuela.
You know
The
a lot
coup.
about this topic, and a lot of people that I've talked to have a lot of very inaccurate interpretations of this. So
Well, I think that...
Tell me about Venezuela.
I think this is another example of the media not giving you the full story.
Which media? Because
The mainstream media.
okay,
Not giving you the
what
full...
about like internet media's opinion of Venezuela's socialist control? Because a lot of people cite Venezuela as the ultimate culmination of failure socialism.
I think that this is just another example of the United States going into a country to get oil. And that sounds like this is another, we're going to go overthrow a left-leaning country.
You are the first person I've heard say that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's clearly what we're doing. Donald Trump's wanted to go into Venezuela for a while. And he's got two hawks in his administration. Mike Pompeo and John Bolton.
Pompeo's a monster.
Well, John Bolton's a monster. John Bolton was the UN ambassador under Bush.
See, I
So
didn't know that.
what you see in Venezuela?
Why do I remember Pompeo's name?
Well, Mike Pompeo was the CIA director under Trump briefly.
Okay.
And he was a congressman. And then,
conflict of interest.
and now you have Gina Haspel, who's the head of the CIA, and she was the head of the. She knew all about the torture operations that were going on during the torture facilities that we had during the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Like the Abu Ghraib prison thing and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Gina Haspel is
would you
complete
hold the
CIA.
US responsible for war crimes?
Yes.
Yes, we
absolutely
for this war for Iraq in particular.
I think you could hold the United States for Iraq, and how about Yemen? What's going on right now?
No.
The Saudi-backed, the Saudi-led, U.S.-backed intervention in Yemen that's responsible for famine and I believe the worst cholera outbreak in history. I think. Okay. According to the UN.
So let's refocus on Venezuela. So the coup. The United States, for those of you that don't know, we have a habit of what's called red flags. So something like, I will use Pearl Harbor as an example because a lot of people cite this as the first time the U.S. has done this. So we wanted to be involved in World War II. Regardless for interventionist reasons, regardless for economic reasons, it doesn't matter at this point. We wanted to be involved in World War II. So, what do? You position military liners around Japan, which is allied with Germany, to piss Japan off. Japan takes this as an affront. They bomb Pearl Harbor. What we do is antagonize, and it happened with 9/11 too.
Oh, we antagonize. We instigate.
And then
we instigate in a lot of places around the world.
And then we topple over their leaders. Again, this happened in Iraq in the 80s. It happened in Cuba in the 70s, I want to say.
Cuba.
Right? Yeah.
What, 70s?
Yeah, it was the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That was the 60s.
60s.
Yeah. That was the closest we'd come to nuclear
war. And again, Castro comes from after we toppled democratically elected leaders and tried to kill Castro.
Well, look at Chile.
Yeah.
I mean, Chile was
looking at Chile.
Salvador Allende was overthrown.
Mm-hmm.
He was a socialist leader of Chile, and then we backed Pinochet, who was the dictator,
Mm-hmm.
and Pinochet was a very repressive dictator, I've heard. And in Colombia, we had intervention there, and now Colombia's all fucked up, and Venezuela, which
the got the spotlight right now.
Venezuela, Trump's. You can go back and read the interviews. I think back in the 90s or in the 2000s, he's talking about, oh, Venezuela's got oil. Let's just why don't we just go into Venezuela, And it's all about. I mean, it sounds like a broken record, but it's all about going in there and toppling a socialist leader, and we don't care about how many people we kill. We really don't. Sanctions that we squeeze on Venezuela. Sanctions are an act of war. I mean, that is.
You're right though. You see it with Iraq.
You see it with
the nuclear
Iran,
deal, for example. Iran. Sorry, I said Iraq.
Iran, the nuclear.
Yeah, not that it's different, but the Iranian nuclear deal.
That was a big mistake of Trump's. That was a really, really big mistake of Trump's.
I pretty much knew that deal was going to go out the window.
I knew it was going to go out the window too.
It was too decent.
It was, Barack Obama. That was probably one of the better things that came out of his administration. I mean, it was
agreed.
As far foreign policy wise, definitely, because I think he was not that great foreign policy, Barack Obama.
No, his success was definitely social justice wise, and that's why you don't see a lot of respect for him on the right for doing anything.
I think he was kind of a abysmal failure, Barack Obama.
Really?
I think he was pretty kind of. I mean, that Obamacare plan, that's a right-wing healthcare plan, man. That is a bad healthcare plan.
It is a bad
and we couldn't even get a public option. Yeah. I mean, but I think the time for a public option is too late. We need Medicare for all. But, I mean, back in 2009, I think... I mean,
at some point, it feels like you're trying to fucking, fix something that... It's like, if we just, knock down the back wall, we can keep the meteorite in the house. Maybe we just shouldn't keep the meteorite. You know what I mean? Right. It just doesn't. I don't know why I used a meteorite, but you don't really want. What am I trying to say? You don't want. It's hard to articulate.
I know. I've been there. It's the. It's the we talking, but hey, guess what? We cover a lot in this short amount of time. We really have. We've talked about Venezuela. We've talked about Mike Gravel. We've talked about psilocybin.
Yeah.
We cover a lot, and that is why this is cool. That is why this is definitely.
We were talking 100% earlier about Democratic candidates. I've talked to you about
Democratic candidates.
And tonight we're recording. The night we're recording this is the Democrat debate. So when this airs 2 weeks from now,
Democrat.
Yeah, a lot of people will already have developed their opinion. There's 159 candidates.
159.
I'm sorry. There
150.
There's one. You gotta catch them all. There's one for every Pokemon.
And John Delaney is probably still going to be at 0% by the time. Can he go lower?
All polling at like 0%. There's no way that they're. I don't know what polls these people use, but I read a lot of.
So let me tell you what they're doing.
I've never heard of most of these people.
Well, because there's 23 people on stage. It's not a fucking mistake or these are 23 proud Americans. This is all to stop Bernie Sanders.
You really think that though?
Yeah, dude. They're gonna.
Yang doesn't seem like he's in it too. Like some of them don't seem against Bernie. I think a lot of them are gonna end up supporting Bernie. Who's the
Pete Buttigieg.
Pete Buttigieg.
You want to know why Elizabeth Warren is a bad
Warren's
person?
Doing fairly well.
Elizabeth Warren is going to split the progressive vote.
Yes,
and people don't agree.
Though. We need to be very concerned about.
She is a neoliberal.
She's
tool.
very neoliberal.
She's extremely neoliberal, and she's
my opinion on
not
neoliberal politics is when Kanye hired that private firefighting group to stop his house from burning down. That's what neoliberal is to me.
Yeah.
So continue with that.
It's all going to be about stopping Bernie. Their big stop Bernie. That is what the Democratic Party, I feel, is most concerned about. They would rather lose to Trump than see Bernie Sanders get the nomination.
I don't think that's the case.
You don't think that's the case?
Absolutely not.
Oh my God, they don't want Bernie.
Trump. I think this is a never Trump candidate.
It's anybody but Bernie Sanders or maybe Tulsi Gabbard.
I don't see that.
I don't
see that. I see
because they see him as some sort of a threat. I mean, I don't think Bernie.
What kind of threat? Like a threat to capitalism?
A threat to Wall Street and a threat to the owners of the party. The people who own the party are not gonna take him.
I don't know about that, man.
That's 100%. They're not gonna do it. They're gonna shove us. They're gonna shove Pete Buttigieg down our throats, or it's gonna be Biden, or it's gonna be Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris. Cory Booker, I don't think has a chance. But
what are your thoughts on Booker from New Jersey?
I don't like Cory Booker.
Represent.
No, Cory Booker sucks. Cory Booker blows. He's a big pharma tool. If you have any common sense, you'd vote for Madeline Hoffman.
A lot of my problem with Cory Booker is his relationship to the big pharma. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
I mean, he is a grandstanding, just typical politician. I just am not a big fan of Cory Booker. He's very, very neoliberal, and his he did the Spartacus moment thing. What? He's very, very
what was
hammy.
The Spartacus moment? I don't know what that.
Oh my gosh, you don't remember during the friggin' Kavanaugh hearings when he was like he was making some point to Chuck Grassley, and he said, "This might be my
thing." Yeah, the boob thing.
Nah.
He said?
The boob thing. No, that was Al Franken who touched the boobs.
He said he groped somebody too. I'm pretty sure. I'll look it up just so I don't slander Cory Booker without knowledge, but I believe he admitted to groping.
Kavanaugh groped.
Yeah, but Cory Booker said he did too. In college.
Cory Booker's
Let me see.
Cory Booker.
Yeah, in 1992, Cory Booker wrote of groping a high school friend as they, quote, fumbled upon the bed and issued a call for sexual respect.
Wow.
This is from the Washington Post.
Yeah, well, you learn something new every day, don't you?
Well, yeah. When I read this, I was very disheartened, and I read about why he did it. He brought it up because he said that as a young man, he felt enamored sexually, and they were as it says in the headline that I read, they fumbled upon a bed.
Fumbled upon a bed.
Yeah, it's like a Christmas story.
La 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 la.
So Cory Booker and insert Jane Doe here.
We're fumbling.
We're fumbling on the bed, and Cory got a little handsy and put his hands on her breasts, and he wrote an article about it. Actually, that's how they actually found this quote. Because he wrote an article about how it was like a low point in his life and how it taught him a little bit about boundaries. So, I don't know. What do you think? This is a good question.
I still think he's a tool.
Okay, yeah. Well, what do you think about the groping thing, though? Do you think he should be held responsible for groping, or do you think that the article in itself... First off, I want to point out that this Washington Post article that I have pulled up...
The Washington Post, the fake
Amazon,
Washington
Post.
The fake Washington
the Amazon
Post.
News website that I pulled up.
Amazon News talking points. PR shit.
That have I pulled up. Well, this has nothing to do with PR. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Washington Post necessarily doesn't have anything to do with PR for the fucking sake that they just fucking post anything. This has nothing to do with their PR. They'll say anything for clicks. This is 160 comments on it.
160.
That's not
a lot.
Not a lot.
That's not a lot.
This article did very.
They're failing.
This article famously did very poorly.
Yeah. You know what?
But
If I believe that these cases of sexual assault, the women should be listened to, and I believe that.
Do you think what he did was sexual assault, or do you think he just stepped over the line? And I'm not saying.
Well, I think that's up to the woman to decide whatever
Absolutely.
that was. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's, you know.
He said.
I have a really hard time with guys trying to, you know, if a
Defend
woman says it was sexual assault,
it was sexual
then it was
assault.
sexual assault, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
you know,
I've never been in a situation. At least,
and
I know.
I think
Well,
men really.
No one's ever said.
I think
anything to me.
I think guys really need to take a step back sometimes. Well, all the time.
Yeah, I was watching an interview with somebody the other day, a sexual research studier from some university. She lost her job because she spoke pretty actively about the gender issue, and she's a pretty liberal person actually.
Mm-hmm.
But she got fired for a comment she made. The reason I brought her up was, what were we talking about a second ago? Train of thought.
I'm terrible. We were talking about sexual assault.
Oh,
women.
okay.
Yes,
right. She
that's
said
what we
that
did.
Men,
Thank God for editing software.
Men are like afraid that women are going to report them for sexual assault, and they are like not as, I guess, like sexually strong as they used to be or whatever. But like for that, like to be like a predator sexually, I think you need some kind of consent, don't you? You know what I mean? Like if you like, that's just my like opinion. Like if you're like a really sexually aggressive person, and I know a lot of sexually aggressive men and women, the most sexual of them are the most respectful of other people's boundaries.
They're the most respectful.
Yeah. The people that are really
you wouldn't think that, would you?
No,
you would think they'd maybe be the biggest like.
Yeah, no, the
porn
people that
doors on
are
the planet.
very
That is
into
interesting.
like BDSM and like like seduction and like stuff like that. They're big on consent.
Fetishes.
They're all because they're considered sexual deviants. But,
Right.
But consent is like the biggest thing for them. I know people with some pretty fucking weird fetishes. And,
right.
And I find these things interesting. So
I
talk to people about these things. Hopefully, I'll get somebody that wants.
We
to
should
talk
have.
to them on
You
air.
know what? Hey, how about if I be your like fetish correspondent?
Yeah, you want to talk to people about their fetishes?
Sure.
Yeah, I will try to find people. We're looking for fetishes.
Dude, I think we just fucking found it. Hey, we're gonna have a fetish show.
A fetish show.
A fetish show. And you're gonna just say, what the fuck is that? And you're gonna be like, hold on, just you wait and see.
Yeah.
Because it's coming, and it's gonna be the best, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be
think-
so friggin' entertaining.
Yeah, but back to what we were talking about. I don't think men, any fucking dude is really. I've never been afraid that I've sexually assaulted somebody, but I know for a fact that I've never fucking did. You know what I mean?
Mm. Some
people who have some kind of reservations of what they did is like sexually wrong, don't you think? I don't know.
It's hard to
Maybe I'm
comment
assuming.
on. It's hard to comment about sexual assault
It
because
is a
it's
case
such
by
a.
case thing.
It's such a touchy, and I believe that if there's two people in a situation and someone didn't ask for something and you make someone feel uncomfortable, and if they tell you like to stop, you stop, and there should be consent. And if there's not consent and somebody says it's assault, then it's assault, dude.
If there's no
intent matters. Intent
is
matters,
always
but
fine
intent matters, but I think how a person takes it is more important.
Sex is always
I think
fine.
the way a
And
person
if there's
takes
no consent,
things,
it's not sex anymore.
a way a person takes anything is if someone says that you really offend them, if If you make a joke and someone says, that really offended me, it's like, oh, I was just kidding around. It's like, well, I didn't take it that way.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
If you say something to somebody and they name you by name in their suicide note, and not
I think a lot of people are a lot
live
more
your life, trying to deliberately not offend people. Like, I'm going to offend people a lot with things that I'm going to say.
Sure, yeah.
But I also am not trying to bully anybody into fucking submission.
Right, and some people really get a rise out of it. That's why bullying's a big fucking deal. I think trolling and bullying is a really,
Trolling and bullying can be lighthearted a little bit. Mm. It can get way, way out of hand. And it gets way out of hand when people start come into people's houses. Me and Austin actually talked about this, about being artists, like independent artists, and like, people sharing our work. And someone actually stole Austin's work before and was pretending to be him online.
Get the fuck out, really?
Yeah, and sometimes people will show up he was talking about local YouTubers, and two of them were gonna run up to somebody else's house and like go in the door and break in to make a fucking YouTube video.
What the fuck?
And and there's like
that's fucking crazy.
There's like this detachment from reality with some content creators.
Yeah, I think I like YouTube. I mean, I think YouTube is a great outlet for people. I think YouTube. I think there's too much I think there's too much censorship. I think Google probably that was a big mistake. That was a big problem with Google taking over YouTube. The censorship and some of their policies are really stupid. I'm stupid. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm hugely against censorship. I'm against censorship on college campuses. I'm against censorship of, even if science is offensive, I'm for.
Yeah, the college campus thing is really annoying. I can see why people don't like the college campus vibe because it's very PC and it's very. Yeah. Sometimes feels non-inclusive to other outside points of view. Now, I'm not saying you should agree with everything Ben Shapiro says, but it doesn't mean you completely ban. I mean, he should be allowed.
Write off his point. You can't write off his points.
What do you think about Richard Spencer, though? White supremacist? I don't think he should be allowed.
I mean, I think what he's doing is different than Ben Shapiro. But again, it draws like a weird content. Text. First off, Ben Shapiro is not a white supremacist.
No.
And the other guy definitely is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when you put them together, they both are screaming free speech, free speech, free speech. And what one of them is doing is bastardizing it. They're using free speech to justify hate. Now, the only thing that I think you can really do, though, is use your free speech to win. And
you have to use your free speech to counter the bullshit. Yeah. You have to use your free speech to counter bigotry. That is the best weapon to defeat,
this is something Ben Shapiro needs to realize, is that if he wants to he has every right to go to every college campus and say whatever the fuck he wants. But every student on that campus has the right to protest.
Yeah, it has the right, and you see how some of the students who he interacts with, they try to debate him.
Now, and again, he's not cool with universities telling him no, right? But it's perfectly fine for somebody to tell a gay couple they won't make them a cake.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and again, he's like, oh, it's free speech, and it's like, well, so what's
it's only free, free speech is just something they throw out if they say it's going to benefit them. You know what I mean?
And now it gets weird when you say things like, all right, well, what if someone was going to pay you, $100, $200 for a collaboration with this, or however much I'm going to charge for a collaboration to be on a song about anything, to be on a song about a viewpoint that I don't agree with, that says something sexist or racist or homophobic or whatever. How much, would I be willing, is that the same thing,
I mean, I'd be very mindful of, I try to be as mindful as possible about who I collaborate with.
Yeah, and art is weird. Art is a very complicated thing.
Yeah, you got to be careful because.
And again, I don't.
Some things and it's just something I think people have to very much take into consideration. It's the times that we live in, and I think it's the right way to.
It's a very complicated.
It's
issue,
a very it's all
thing.
yeah. It's all
because it opens the door for a lot of other weird policy.
The cake thing?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I fucking just bake them the friggin' cake.
Yeah, but what? But okay.
Just bake them the fucking cake.
What
If they want to buy
what
the
if
cake.
It was a swastika now. And again, I agree with you. I think you should just bake them the cake. But now let's say that it's compromising a different belief of yours. Now again, I think Ben Shapiro is very wrong for comparing homosexuals to Nazis in this scenario. But this is something that he said, I believe, to Andrew Yang.
He compared the homosexuals.
He said no. He said he wouldn't. He understands the baker not wanting to make a cake for homosexuals because, you know, you can refuse to make a cake for a Satanist or.
I just think that's fucking what? Like that's so complete. Like
yeah, they lumped Halloween into it too.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? Ben Shapiro. A lot of his stuff is. Let me try to talk really fast like that, and try to talk over you really quickly. Yeah. See, when you should be quiet, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna talk over you. That's what I'm gonna do. Because I'm Ben Shapiro and I'm really smart.
And we're podcasters and we talk very slow.
And I talk very slow and I get. And this is honesty. And honesty is the best policy. Isn't honesty a good policy? I think honesty is a really. I mean, I think podcasting is great. I think podcasting is a great art form.
I think it's the birth of a new medium. I think it's going to have a very, very important place in the coming years. And it's going to influence things like elections. You know,
I think it already is.
It already is, exactly. And
I think YouTube already has. I think the YouTube media.
The YouTube culture, the internet culture, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. Twitter, for fuck's sake, dude. Who would have thought that when that guy made Twitter, he was just not thinking that one day the president of the United States is going to talk about fucking declaring war on this motherfucker.
What do you think about the tweets? Do you think you should? I mean, I think the tweets are.
I think it's one of the most unprofessional things that I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think it is
from a completely business perspective. I think it is the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
And the funny thing is, people thought he was going to stop. People thought he was going to stop.
It's degrading to his reputation. And
he doesn't. He's very
knows
ballsy.
The value of his reputation. Of all things, he knows his reputation is important, and that's why. But he's making a circus of himself. So it's the.
But he loves circus stuff. I mean, he was basically a carnival huckster.
Yeah,
he thrives on chaos. He probably gets a big kick out of it.
Yeah.
Probably sits there and he's like, look at what I did. And now I can go and, like, you know, sell the Saudis a bunch of fucking weapons and shit. You know, and now I can, but I think they blocked that. Didn't they block that? I don't know what that's a whole,
talk about how the Iran, the ban, the Muslim ban, the so-called Muslim ban as it was called.
Yeah. But it wasn't a ban. It's not a travel ban. It's not a ban. I remember that.
Muslims into his country.
I mean, the man said it.
It left out Saudi Arabia. I once read a quote that was like,
I wonder why that is.
It's like saying you're going on a diet and cutting out everything except bacon fat.
Oh my god!
Like the one nation that has actively only supported terrorism and fucking.
They are the sponsor of terrorism.
Yes.
We are the sponsor of. Aren't we the sponsor of terrorism? I think we're the leading sponsor of terrorism.
I mean, if you want to, if you're talking about like ISIS, then yeah, we funded ISIS.
I mean,
ISIS is created by a power vacuum. So, like, do you want to talk about like Saudi Arabia's government, because that's an interesting topic. Where I'm gonna say we have like 20 minutes, but who cares? It's been almost an hour and 40 minutes right now.
An hour and 40 minutes. Holy shit.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that, does it?
Doesn't really feel that long now. You're not. Are you? Some parts of this you're gonna have to cut out because I sound so stupid.
No, you don't want to stop.
Oh my god, it really does. It sounds. Some of the stuff I can tell I'm stoned.
Yeah, well, we're a chill podcast. You know what I mean?
Podcast.
Like, it's funny, actually. Austin doesn't smoke, so we didn't smoke at all during his podcast. We just fucking talked about art and fucking...
So this is like...
And dumb comedy, and you came on and talked about politics, and we got stoned during it.
Yeah, I wanted to make a lot of better points, but it ended up being a lot of like stone rambling.
No,
I came here armed with, you want to know what this is? This is a great example of don't get stoned before work. Sometimes. Sometimes you can.
I think you brought up some really good topics. And the thing about like smoking during an interview, like you were talking to me, you know what I mean? I didn't want you to come here with talking points like you're trying to fucking sell me on something.
But
I wanted you to sit down and be like, so, let's talk about this policy. Let's talk about that policy. If we want to bring up fucking aliens, if we want to, we can talk about aliens. That's the beauty of the podcast format. We're not constricted. We don't even have to. We can talk for, longer.
May not be trying to sound like I want to sell you something, but I can probably sell people things if I wanted to. Advertising is crazy.
Advertising is my.
Advertising is crazy. I think advertising.
That shelf of books over there is dedicated to advertising. The one fallen over is actually The Art of War.
Whoa.
Heavy, isn't it? Yeah, but
that is extremely heavy. I think.
Well, when I sort my books, I sort my books by category, and when I think of the thing that's mostly. The 48 Laws of Power is another book that's like war oriented that is a key to marketing.
I wish I read. You're so smart, Max.
Oh, everybody says that.
Well, listen, dude.
I just talk out,
No. I have a really bad problem with not reading enough. That has been a problem of mine for a while. I don't know if I have ADD or something like that. It's hard for me to pay attention when I pick up a book.
I've actually heard it mentioned that psilocybin helps reading ability.
But I like to read if I'm reading something. If I'm reading something that I really am interested in. But if it comes to picking up it's just a fucking pain in the ass to me. I don't know why.
I have a lot of interest, so that's why I read.
I don't want to sound like a stupid person.
No, I don't think you're an idiot at all. I really.
Oh.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. I
think you're a very intelligent person.
Oh my
God. Why you're on the show.
Oh my God. This is fucking great.
So let's talk about what you do with Revolution Radio.
Well, I did. New Jersey Revolution Radio is New Jersey's they're a socialist, anti-capitalist podcast and media platform and advocacy group. Heather Warburton, Brian Powers, they're really two great grassroots activists. From racial justice to criminal justice to economic justice. I mean, social justice of all kinds. They really are. They work so hard to better not only New Jersey, but to give a platform to other advocacy groups and advocates. And the great thing about New Jersey Revolution Radio is that they're completely free from corporate influence. They don't take any corporate money. They're totally grassroots supported, and they both do this out of their homes. It's completely, and that's why I think it's great, is that it's completely, do it yourself, from the ground up kind of stuff. And that's what I like a lot. That's what I like about art, and that's what I like about, activism and stuff like that, is the fact that it starts from like nothing. It's something that it all starts from just like one person, and then it becomes like a movement. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No,
all these.
There's a trigger effect, a trickle effect, like a domino effect, rather.
Yeah.
With ideas, especially, it has to do with the way ideas spread. And activism is one of the most fundamental things that spread, especially with the internet. I don't know to what extent it's been studied, but I'm sure that the internet has done wonders for like social justice communities, like homosexuals and
it has,
and African Americans.
And you want to know what I hear a lot about? Speaking about that, the Trump administration's attacks on like transgender and the transgender ban in the military. And
right. Yeah. See, that's very that to me is just blatant discrimination.
That's discrimination. That's discrimination
Right.
in grossest form. I heard something on NPR the other day about black trans women.
The
murders of black
recently.
trans
weren't
women.
they focused around a specific area too?
I believe it was Texas.
I will look it up just for.
I believe it was Texas, but that's just a disgrace.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we're like, we say we're the greatest country in the world, and people still have to live with this shit. You know, it's unbelievable to me. Yeah, I don't think we're the greatest country in the world if that has to happen.
It's
Fuck
a
that.
BuzzFeed article, so I don't really want to click on it, but it says a 22-year-old man was arrested in the killing of a black trans woman in Dallas. So that's one isolated incident right there. Right here it says 2019. This is from hrc.org. This is violence against the transgender community in the year 2019. 26 deaths of transgender people due to fatal violence, and the majority of whom were black. Wow. So.
And this is America in 2019, folks.
26 deaths. Now, as I've said before, every one of these deaths is tragic. I haven't said that before, but every one of these deaths is tragic in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of them stem from hatred of the trans community, though. Some of them.
It's all hatred. It's all, you know.
There's a scene.
It's just.
Sorry.
No, it's just we have such a we don't tolerate change well in this country at all. You know, we don't tolerate anything being.
No one tolerates change well, but change is the kind of thing that is forced.
Yeah.
You know, people don't get to choose when they die. You know, you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose if your kid's trans. You don't get to choose really if you are, probably. So.
It's heavy shit, man. It's heavy shit.
It's very heavy, very open to debate, and neither one of us is a gender studies researcher.
No, I'm not.
If you do study gender and sexuality, I am very interested to talk to anyone that studies that, though.
Yes. We're always interested in talking to the professionals.
So.
And that's 100% serious.
Let's talk about. You wanted to discuss veterans.
Yeah. Support the troops.
You support, yeah.
No, I think support the troops is a whole bunch of shit. I think if you support the troops, then you should be saying, hey, stop sending them to war to get killed.
Yeah.
For oil.
The old George Carlin quote, they want live babies so they can grow up to be dead soldiers.
Yeah. George Carlin was a great artist.
One of my heroes, yeah. One of my personal.
I think support the troops, like the whole... I support the troops. And by supporting the troops, I'm going to say, don't fucking go. Don't go to war. Don't enlist. Don't. Because they're going to fucking use you as a pawn for a fucking war that's going to kill a whole bunch of fucking people for oil. I mean, look at the Middle East.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I mean, come on. I mean, and they do it right in front of you. They do it literally right in front of you the whole time. And the media, again, no pushback. Very, very little pushback.
Right.
And if you do push back, they call you a conspiracy theorist.
That's a term that gets thrown around a lot nowadays. It's thrown around on all perspectives, from flat earthers to anyone that thinks that the media reported something inaccurately in one particular case scenario. You know
or if you go against the military-industrial complex on wars.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell the truth or if you voice skepticism, you're going to get criticized. Or you might lose your fucking job. You never know.
Yeah. Well.
You know, when you have Boeing sponsor Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, you know Chuck Todd's not going to go hard on the military-industrial complex. He's not going to push back. Oh, Boeing sponsors Meet the Press. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You want to know why they don't talk about global warming a lot on the television is because right after the evening news, you got a commercial for BP. That's why, or Chevron. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of oil sponsors that take root in certain industries.
I think it would be great if
it's
the
hard
media.
to say to what degree they have influence, but you're right. You certainly don't want to bite the hand that feeds you either. You know.
I think it'd be great if the media were to talk about climate change. I mean, if they were to take, or if, there's so much bullshit on the television. You take away some of these programs and you put on a program that maybe teach people about, hey, the UN said we got like 12 years to get our shit together.
You think that would work? You think like
you got to do something like
station?
I think I believe public broadcasting, real public broadcasting. That's not a bunch of rich people donating to like NPR does, you know what I mean? NPR, you got the fucking Gates and the Kroc Foundation and shit like that donating, and it's like, okay, well, they're all the corporatists. They're all the same,
Do you think? How do I word this? Do you think the military-industrial complex is so ingrained in this country that it can't be extinguished? Do you think, to what degree is military necessary in your mind?
Military is, well, we need a defense department. Defense. We need defense, and then we need a Department of Peace.
So you're against interventionism?
I'm against intervention unless we're directly threatened. And
yeah. Germany actually, after World War II, they were forced to put into their constitution that they will not declare war unless they are personally directly threatened.
That's the only.
They're on to this day, even UN contributions, they're only allowed to contribute through donations, and they got in trouble for faking donations.
Really?
Yeah. It was they were sending fake, or they were reporting that they had weapons that they didn't have. And then eventually some UN official went to check on the weapons, and they just never existed.
They just never.
My dog is currently kicking my mic stand.
Nova's gonna get a show one day.
Nova, yeah, she deserves her own
She deserves her own show. She at least deserves to co-host.
Right, Nova?
She's got the energy for it, yes.
How do you feel, dog?
Yes. No, but, I think we need defense. And I believe we should create a Department of Peace. Okay. That's strictly, the State Department's supposed to be the party of diplomacy, but you have a guy like Mike Pompeo who's completely he's a warmonger.
Yeah.
He's a warmonger.
Well, that's what happened. You have somebody in the EPA right now that doesn't believe in climate change.
Well,
that's what happens when you have a country in the state that it is right now.
Trump loves chaos.
Well, a lot of people that put him in charge, I have vested interests that certain people that wanted him in charge wanted chaos for vested interests.
You want to know what's funny? Donald Trump ran as an outsider candidate. I don't need their money. I'm self-funding my campaign, blah, 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 blah. He was calling out the establishment. He ran as the anti-establishment. Now, he's like running. He's taking tons of PAC money. He's got all the donors lined up. He's acting like a typical fucking Republican. It's like he was, hey, it's almost like he fucking bullshitted you.
Yeah,
it's almost like he lied to you.
It's the equivalent of like a big media artist.
And what are the Democrats going to do about it?
And articulate integrity.
And how are the Democrats going to respond?
Do you think they respond? I don't think.
How are the Democrats going to?
The problem with Democrats is they have a very unresponsive.
They fucking lay down.
Yeah, they're just unresponsive.
Hey, dude, I gotta tell you, if it's a moderate Democrat against Trump, I think it's a very real. I think Donald Trump is very likely to win again, based on the power of incumbency, and based on the fact that.
I'm not ready to count out Bernie, to be honest. Though.
I
think if Yang had support, I wouldn't be ready to count him out either.
I think the Yang guy is interesting.
Yang has a future, I think.
I like the I'd like to hear more about the universal basic income, and I think I think. Well, I mean, just in general, I would. I think he would be a decent choice for the Democrats to maybe put up against him. He'd certainly be better than Joe Biden. He'd certainly be better than Joe Biden, and I think he'd probably be better than Elizabeth Warren.
It's really the only topic we didn't cover was Joe Biden. Because
oh, God, you can talk about it.
I don't think he's going to last for this whole thing anyway, but, I've been wrong before, so what do you think about Joe?
I still think they're going to try to push him as the Obama-era unity guy.
Yeah,
but
was Obama really a symbol of unity?
What?
But was Obama really a symbol of unity? I mean, I've heard it said quite a bit that Trump is a backlash to Obama.
Trump is a direct result of Obama's failures.
Yeah. So you agree with that? So you think Biden is a repeat of history?
I think that I think people like Barack Obama mainly because he was a nice, gentlemanly figure who gave a good speech and made everybody feel good, but I don't think they really know the policy.
He's a good figure. He was a good figure. He was a nice guy. I mean,
a nice.
So
he talked a good game, but he really wasn't a progressive. He was more of a moderate. He called himself a moderate Republican.
Absolutely.
I mean that again, Obamacare plan was a complete right-wing giveaway.
And he needed to be pressured on things like he did.
He should have
legalized, but he did need pressure to do it.
Well, I think the bailout was a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how are you gonna fucking? I mean, what a betrayal! What a betrayal to the working class people who voted for hope and change. And it's like, hey, we're gonna bail the banks out on you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's definitely what happened.
I just think, and then along comes Donald Trump. How do you like that, Barack Obama? Your legacy is Donald Trump. That sucks. That sucks dick. That's bad. He's probably got it, but man, this is my legacy is this piece of shit. This fucking I must have. Hey, dude, this is what you get when you fucking after 8 years of George W. Bush. You just got another neoliberal hack in Barack Obama. That's what happened. Unfortunately,
judgments on Obama.
It's kind of accurate. I think 2020 Democrats, I mean, vote for Bernie if you want to vote for Democrat. If you want to vote for a Green Party candidate, I would suggest you vote for Howie Hawkins. Or I would suggest, voting for Vermin Supreme. You could vote for Vermin Supreme. You could write in Mike Gravel.
If you don't know who Vermin Supreme is,
you can write in Nova. Write in Nova. Because you know what? We're at that point.
He's what Vermin Supreme. So he is I guess he's a comedian.
I don't know what the hell you'd call him.
He posts. He wears a cone on his head. He wants to give every person in the country a horse. He's been running in New York for like
15, he runs all the time.
20 years. He runs for like every election.
He does.
It is like his only income, I think. He's made a life out of it.
I
think he's a very funny guy.
He's kind of amazing in the fact that he's persistent and he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. He runs all the time. I used to be a guy who was very closed-minded to third parties. Like after Trump won, before I sort of became critical of the Democratic Party and left the Democratic Party, I used to kind of think, well, why would you, if you voted for Gary Johnson or Jill Stein, that's fucked up. And I used to use the term waste your vote. I did used to say that, but, now I
mean, with the Electoral College, if you live in the wrong state, you might have wasted your vote.
No. I think voting you should vote. I like voting. Ted Cruz, I can't believe I'm quoting Ted Cruz, but he said, vote your conscience. I think voting your conscience is a good thing. I think voting for candidates you believe in and voting for parties you believe in.
I think passion voting can be problematic, though.
Passion voting?
Yeah, that's what voting with your conscience is.
Well, I think there's...
Like, is voting with your conscience, like, I need to keep immigrants out of this country to protect my family, or is it voting...
I can't support a Democrat...
Yeah.
What if some, I can't support the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party, I feel, is too...
Okay.
corrupt.
No, I feel that, though, and I've spoken to...
And that's why I think... That's what I think... I could criticize Bernie for that. I think Bernie should have left the Democratic Party.
Okay.
I think he should have definitely left the Democratic Party.
Do you think it would have worked?
I think it could have worked. I mean, why couldn't it have worked? I mean,
I don't think the medium to support independent candidate is there. I think it's coming.
Oh no, it could have been Bernie Sanders.
You really think?
Absolutely, because of the movement that he has. And the energy that he has from the young people.
Man. He doesn't seem to think that he can do it, though.
Well, because Bernie, I don't know what... I think he's sheepdogging. I think he's sheepdogging. He's trying to sheepdog for a party that is counter-revolutionary.
Well, that's a lot of it. A lot of what's being done now is blast control for revolution.
If Bernie Sanders...
It always is, though. That's what politics is. It's burn control.
If he wanted a real revolution, I think he would have formed a third-party progressive party. And he's the most popular senator and he's the most popular politician in the country. I think he really could have done it. I think that would and he could take the AOC woman and put that in the caucus, take her from the Democratic Party, and then
take the AOC woman, he says. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, and I agree, it's getting there. And with social media and the change in thoughts, eventually you'll be able to have a candidate that has a completely fucking indifferent opinion. Maybe they might even be able to say they're not completely capitalist. But, for this to happen, for new levels of candidacy to be involved, the medium has to evolve. And Bernie and AOC too, I really agree with their work because they're radical in their own opinions. They stand where they stand.
But they need to leave the Democratic Party. But it's Nancy Pelosi and Chuck
You have to play the game to change the game, though. You know what I mean?
How are they?
It's the reason I'm on YouTube and I'm not making my own website.
Are they going to cuck for a moderate just to beat Trump? Because if you play the game,
I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to cuck for a moderate because it didn't work last time. If they've learned anything,
I don't think they've learned anything.
Well, then maybe that's the lesson.
Oh my god! And guess what?
Lessons will be repeated until learned.
Dude, they gotta leave that party right now. Leave that party. Go register for the Green Party. Go register for like the Socialist Party. Go become an independent or something.
I'm an independent. I'm registered independent.
Become an independent voter. Well, think outside the box. There's more than two parties out there. Okay? And guess what? They're all owned by the same fucking people, okay? They're all owned by the same people. Think outside the box. Think outside the bun. And that used to be the Taco Bell.
Is it really?
Think outside the bun.
It's not a very good logo.
Think outside the bun. That was a Taco Bell.
Why would, is it just, I guess, because it's the
Because they're tacos and not buns, right?
So... Alright, I guess we'll do one more topic where we are at the 2-hour mark right now. We've really covered pretty much everything on this list. So
we whooped ass.
Except this joke question that I have. So, Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
If he exists, do you think he can save the Green New Deal?
Does Bigfoot take corporate PAC money?
No.
There might be
he wouldn't. He's just been discovered. So
he's just been. I mean, I would have to know. Like
he might have the attention of the world on his side.
Wow.
That kind of clout.
I have a feeling like he might be a paid Russian operative.
Oh, and your evidence for this?
Is Rachel Maddow's gonna have something to say about this 9 o'clock. It might be the Russians got the Bigfoot. The Russians got the Bigfoot.
Russians planted Bigfoot.
The Russians gave.
We were talking about how Russia might have planted aliens in Roswell to scare U.S. troops yesterday.
I think the Russians put something in the vodka and it's turning everybody into commie traders. What do you think about that? I think Rachel Maddow's gonna come on one day and she's gonna be like, boycott all vodka. Boycott all vodka.
Boycott all vodka.
Yeah.
Vodka. So the vodka communist, I guess, because potatoes, right? Because they're very easy to grow and cultivate and spread across the population.
Trump got his hands on the commie vodka, and then he lied about. Watch Trump. Trump actually fucking might be. Trump said he's never drank before.
All right, well, that's a better question than the dumb Bigfoot question. So let's.
No, I like your Bigfoot question though. I think Bigfoot can save the Green New Deal. I would like them to save the Green New Deal. I mean, if anybody can deliver the Green New Deal, it might be Bigfoot. I mean, if
you think if
Howie Hawkins can probably deliver the Green New Deal.
You've been pitching for Howie Hawkins.
Well, I pitch for a lot of people, dude.
Let's.
I am probably
about Russian meddling before this is over.
Russian meddling.
I think this is the biggest issue facing the country today because it should be bipartisan and it's not being treated like a bipartisan issue as far as I'm concerned.
What about all the U.S. meddling that we do?
Well, that's criminal in my opinion.
I think.
Okay, so let's talk about U.S. meddling. Start there. Sorry.
I don't know.
US meddling. Yep.
U.S. I mean, we overthrow. Well, not even elections. It's just like we overthrow governments. Like we're gonna go start a war with Iran right now. So I mean, Russia hacks what? What did Russia do? Russia. What did Russia really do? I mean, Russia fucking posted some memes. What did they hack into some fucking voting booths?
I think posting memes is the.
I think
you are significantly underestimating the power of social media. Right
I think that the Russia thing. Listen, complete horse shit. 2 years. It was a conspiracy. I think it's fucking. Hillary lost because she sucked, and they were tired of.
I agree with that,
but that's what some people on the cable news still want to think that it was. You gotta let the Mueller thing go. The report is out there.
Yeah.
It's fucking. We need to. This is all cannon fodder for Trump. This helps Trump. This fucking. Really? The fact that Mueller is going to... No, the fact that they can't stop fucking talking about Mueller and the Russia thing. It's been going on for fucking over 2 years, I don't know, Max.
Man. When you read about this, have you read about the Russian bots?
I don't give a shit about... What about Russia? Listen, we need to become one... We need to... peace treaty with Russia.
Yeah, I agree.
We need peace with Russia. But
they're not playing that game. They're playing the long-term, let's influence U.S. elections to cause corruption down the line game. America is not used to playing the long game, okay? We are a very flash-in-the-pan, okay? We average a major war every 20 years. That's how America thinks. We think in fragments of 20...
Shit, I think it's more frequent than that.
No, I think... Well, now you can go by multiple wars in less than that, but there's at least been one major war every 20 years. So, and we've only been around for 5 of those. So,
yeah.
When you think of a country like Russia, and it's notably it's the only country that's conquered land in the world. Okay, Putin is the most powerful person in the world, arguably, and he exerted his willpower to manipulate U.S. citizens to influence an election to cause a specific event. You don't I personally think that is like high treason. Not even treason, it's an act of war.
I think
it's an act of social war.
I just think this is like a whole bunch of like, here come the scary Russians, like shit.
I don't think
like that is all,
it's that.
Dude. It's totally that though.
I'm not saying we should bomb them.
It's just like fear of the Russians. Like I
don't fear Russia.
Do you not fear
Putin's campaign? Yes, I do. I think Putin the person that's doing my book artwork is Russian actually. And she does amazing artwork. But this is a man that denies all homosexuals in his entire country. Okay? This is a man that has had terrorists taken hostage in a bank, right?
Yeah.
And he starved them for 5 days. Starved the terrorists. Surrounded them with police officers, right? Day 6 comes around. He has said nothing about this entire thing. Military jet flies over the bank. Boom. 2 survivors. He almost killed the police that were standing there. He didn't tell anybody.
Bad guy.
He's an ex-KGB agent.
Yes.
KGB agents are made to swim in a half mile of pig's blood so that they don't fear blood anymore for the rest of their lives.
But we should work to ratchet down tensions with Russia.
I don't think you can play ball with a country that wants to play ball like this.
But we're very rough and aggressive.
But I think we're rough and aggressive. We're both rough. Both us and Russia are rough and aggressive in the wrong way. We need Kennedy aggressive. We don't need
Kennedy aggressive.
Yes, we need. I'm not playing ball with you. We need. This is how this is gonna go, and you have to stand up to things, to people influencing U.S. elections. Russia's done this before.
I think, you want to know who I think is a really big influencer of elections? AIPAC.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a U.S. influence, though. I'm talking, again, if Iran influenced the U.S. election, how do you think people would feel?
Seeing as we like fly fucking Predator drones like over their country all the time, if they like fought back, I'd be like, well, what the fuck do you expect?
Right. But at the same time, you would question it. You know what I mean? If you were trying to implement some kind of outside rule other than American law, you would question it, and that's exactly what Putin's doing. In supporting this idea, it's very negative. Trump, for whatever reason, Putin has interest in him, and there's the P tape, which I believe exists.
Really? The P tape?
Have you ever heard about?
Yeah, I don't think it exists.
I don't know, man. Okay, so let me talk about the P tape. This is where we'll end on the note of the P tape.
On the note of P.
So, Donald Trump flew to Russia.
Oh boy.
For a business meeting with a hotel owner. Now, this hotel advertises that everything in this hotel is videotaped and recorded for safety, which is apparently like a very common thing in Russia, which is pretty fucking terrifying. But aside from the 1984 of this fucking hotel, so Donald Trump goes there. Now, prostitution is legal in Russia to most extents, I believe. So he didn't really break any laws, but it is speculated that a Russian operative or a Russian, again, the government in Russia and the businesses in Russia have side-by-side influences. Russian oil, Russian property, and Russian government are all single operations. So, I don't know who Trump met with or anything that he met with, but this hotel advertises filming everything. So, supposedly, during this meeting, he was introduced to 2 prostitutes, and basically he took them back up to his room, and Michael Cohen testified for this, by the way, in front of
Michael Cohen has fucking no credibility. Michael Cohen is a fucking liar. Michael Cohen lied for Trump. Okay,
yeah,
Michael Cohen's totally in all of this. He's a self-serving fucking grandstanding person. All of this stuff to me is a non-issue.
About that, man.
All this distracts from the actual shit Trump is doing.
You don't think
I think
so the evidence is that he peed on these 2 prostitutes, and then it was recorded in the hotel, and the hotel owner is using it as leeway to hold over Trump as blackmail.
You don't think if it existed it would actually be seen?
No, because it's blackmail. You don't release blackmail if you do it,
Oh, I think somebody would have leaked it.
Supposedly, Cohen says he might have seen it.
Hey, dude.
Here, wait.
Guys, if you're listening, leak that tape.
Does Michael Cohen claim to have seen... Because I watched Cohen's whole testimony for like 7 hours.
Oh, Jesus.
Listening...
You're better than me.
Listening for just the P-tape thing. Because this thing interests me.
Because you wanted to hear a bunch of old-ass congressmen say P-tape, right?
I wanted them to say golden shower.
Can you tell us about the golden shower?
I wanted someone to admit that
Chuck
the President
Grassley.
of the United States took 2 prostitutes up to a room and pissed on them. Yes, I did. I find this whole thing to be very interesting.
High crimes and misdemeanors.
I think it should all be legal. I think you should be perfectly allowed to buy any.
You should be, absolutely.
To rent a consenting adult and urinate on them for money. If somebody, if that woman needs to be peed on to get her way through college, I think that's perfectly fair.
Huh.
I don't see anything wrong with that. Sex is legal. Peeing is legal. Paying for things is legal. Encouraged, in fact. You should be able to do them all together.
I think...
With consent.
Exactly. Egg. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so if they're indeed... So Cohen said, quote, I heard about these tapes. I had many people contact me over the years. I have no reason to believe that the tapes exist. Okay, so the Steele dossier, yeah. But...
The bogus Steele dossier, bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign.
Wait, what? The bogus Steele dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign?
Yeah.
You think that? You think it was paid for by the Clinton campaign? I mean, the Clintons have been involved in some pretty shady shit.
Yes, I mean, it's just... Hillary Clinton cannot fucking accept... She cannot accept defeat at all. I
think she's pretty much curled up and died.
Yeah.
I think she's gone. I don't think she's ever
She'll be
coming
back.
I don't think
she'll be on the campaign trail for whoever it is.
I mean, just because she's on the campaign
so
trail.
will Obama. So will fucking...
Well, yeah, I would want Obama on my campaign trail.
Ew, no, I wouldn't. Hey, Obama, no, go away.
You're not successfully marketing a campaign though. You want as much support as you can get.
But people hate him.
People hate Trump, and it's
Barack Obama's not.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
I wouldn't want to see Barack Obama like stumping for, if some progressive was the fucking Democratic nominee, I would not want to see Barack Obama out there. He's not a very well liked person amongst progressive Democrats.
No, and he's not well liked amongst conservatives either, but the middle ground, which the majority of the country is made up of, he is very well liked.
Yeah, I don't believe that the majority of the country is
You don't?
as middle
I think
ground.
they are.
Really? You don't think the majority of the people support a Medicare for all system?
I've gotten into a lot of arguments that have made me think very differently. Yeah, like my German friends who have Medicare for all have commented on things that people have said on my stuff, making jokes about Medicare for all, and it makes them think like, holy shit, like there's a chance that somebody could take my healthcare away. Like that's fucking crazy, and I don't know. It's just the kind of thing that. We think of what it would be like. We never think of what it would be like if we didn't have a DMV. You know what I mean? If there wasn't any regulatory agencies. But we've been talking for a very long time. This has been a lot of fun, man.
We had a very nice talk.
We had a very nice talk. This has been our political segment. This kind
of been all over the place too. I like it.
I want everybody to know that we encourage thinking independently and free thought, and maybe we change some minds.
Do drugs.
We need to think a certain way. Turn on, tune in, drop out as always. This has been Ryan Hosey with Revolution Radio. Say something for the people, man.
Thank you very much for your time and your consideration. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Max. This has been really cool. Smoke pot.
I am your humble podcaster, Puff Puff Pass, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.